Rosh Chodesh Elul, and the yeshiva starting with Sechet Sanhedrin. We were having a talk with the guys together about how to maximize the year and make sure they learn in the best way possible. And we spoke about making plans, what you're planning to cover over the course of the year. And we spoke about breaking up your Gemara and saying, I'm going to learn this amount until this time, and being realistic with your expectations to make sure it's most effective. And then I sat down to learn Masechet Sanhedrin, and I came across a statement of Ula, which seems so contradictory to everything we've been discussing about maximizing a year. Amar Ula, machshava mo'elet afilu l'divrei Torah. Thoughts help even for Torah. So what does that mean? Thoughts help even for Torah. So it says Rashi, machshava, thoughts help, mo'elet, it helps, l'shakeach limudo, to make you forget your learning. So thoughts help to make you forget your learning? So what does that mean? What does it mean that thinking through makes you forget your learning? So there are three interpretations. The first one Rashi brings is that when a person is in learning, but he has thoughts of other things on his mind, he's worried about his parnasah. He's worried about, in the yeshiva context, where he's going to go out for Shabbos, how good the food is, what's with his roommates, all other things on his mind. That's going to help to make him forget his learning, because he's not able to truly focus. So if that's the case, then what's the solution? If it's true that having thoughts of other things makes you forget your learning, what's the solution? So the solution to that way of understanding is, if you know there's something which is on your mind which is bothering you, you can't ignore it or push it away, because it's probably something you need to take care of. If it's your parnasa, you need to take care of it. But having a fixed, designated time where you know, my parnasa is important, I'm designating these hours where I'm going to focus on that, I'm giving it significance, I'm giving it importance, it is an important thing I'm thinking about. I'm even going to write it down, that from this time to this time I'm focused on these other areas I need to think about, and now my mind is free. And that way you don't try and push down thoughts because they come back with a vengeance, but you give this thought significance. You say, this is an important thought, I'm going to think about it from 4 till 7, and now I'm able to focus on my learning. So the first interpretation within Rashi of what Ula is saying, that thoughts help to forget your learning, is thoughts of other things, not to do with the learning. Second interpretation is the Maharsha. The Maharsha says that if you really want to learn well, you have to say it out loud. And when it says here, when Ula says that machshava mo'elet, that thoughts help to forget your learning, he means that when you only think you're learning, but you don't verbalize it. If a person's learning and just learning in thought, he's looking with his eyes are scanning the Gemara, but he's not saying it out loud with his chavruta back and forth, or even by himself, saying the shakla v'tarya, saying the flow of what he's learning, he's likely to forget what he's learning. And therefore, says the Maharsha, Ula's instruction is, don't just think you're learning, because machshava mo'elet, because thoughts will help you forget everything you're learning. Rather, say it out loud, speak it out, that's going to help you learn. But the interpretation that I most wanted to share was the second interpretation of Rashi, the Lishna Achrina, because this is the one that really confused me initially. Rashi says in his second interpretation, Machshava sha'adam mechashev kach v'kach e'eseh. When a person plans out and he thinks to himself, I'm going to learn this amount of learning, I'm going to learn till this place, afilu l'divrei Torah, even for Torah. Ha'omer ad yom ploni asayem kach v'kach, mesechtot begirsa, by this date, by Kaf Aleph Elul, I'm going to finish this amount of pages. Then that's going to make you forget your learning, and that one really stumped me. Really? Here we're talking about setting goals, setting targets, making sure that you've made a plan of what you're going to learn. What does it mean, if this is the interpretation in Rashi's second, that by making a plan of when you're going to finish your learning, that's going to make you forget your learning? What does that mean? So I was reading separately the Sefer of Rav Kook on the Siddur, Olat Riyah. And Rav Kook there has a beautiful, beautiful interpretation. It's in another context entirely, but it helped me understand what this Gemara, what Ula is saying. Rav Kook writes that when a person is learning Torah, but his goal in learning Torah is to show off how much he knows and to set targets for himself to feel that he's accomplished, but Hashem is not part of his learning. So he's learning page after page and saying, look at me, look what I've accomplished. I finished a Masechta, and in such a short amount of time. That's a guarantee that he's not going to be successful in connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But rather, a person, before he starts learning, has to pause and say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm learning this Masechta for you. I'm learning this to come close to you. I realize this is the Var Hashem. This is the words of Hashem. And my goal in my learning HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to come close to you. So it's not saying that a person shouldn't make a plan. That, of course, a person should. Like the Gemara itself continues and says, Imoskim lishma eina mo'eret. If you're learning for the sake of Hashem, then you won't forget the learning. As the Pasuk says, Rabot machshavot b'leivish, v'atzat Hashem itakum. If you're doing it because it's the will of Hashem and the advice of Hashem, you'll be successful. And that's the crucial difference in a person being successful in his learning and failing his learning. I don't mean successful means he covers ground, and failing means doesn't cover ground. But I mean successful means that through his learning, he feels close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He feels a dveikus with Hashem. And someone else who's not successful in his learning means he's learning well as far as covering ground, but throughout the year, throughout the days, weeks and months, he doesn't feel close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through his learning. This is the vital first step that a person says ahead of time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I realize this is Devar Hashem. I'm learning Torah for you. I know it's your will, and it's my will too. I want to come close to you as well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's what Elul is saying perhaps, in the second interpretation of Rashi. That if a person makes plans, I'm going to learn this from this time to this time, I'm going to finish it by this time, but Hashem's not part of their plan, they just want to show off how much they know, then they're going to forget. Because it's not for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to begin with. That if they make it their agenda from the beginning, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is your Eitzah, this is for your sake. My goal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is none other than doing your will, to come close to you. Then they'll be successful. To learn, to remember their learning, and to bring out a kirvat Elokim, litov, to bring out a closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through their learning. We should be matzliach with a shana tova techatei v'techateim, and in yeshiva learning Masechet Sanhedrin, we should be matzliach to learn the Masechta, to acquire the Masechta, and to have come out feeling giving close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shabbos.